Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Chris Avalon here, coming to you loud, live, and in color to bring you the latest celebrity news and gossip. That's all the things that have been popping off. I know it's already Tuesday, but there's some things that I just wanted to talk about that I thought would be rather interesting. So let's get right to it. So the first story that I wanted to get to, because I don't want to get like just beat around the bush and everything. Glad you're all tuning in. Glad that I'm going to try to do as many videos as I possibly can. Like I said in the previous video that I had, because I've been gone for a minute, but now I'm back with the jump ball, as little Kim used to say. But anyway, um, let's talk about Nicki Minaj. I got a story on her, and I have a story about Cardi B and her. So that's going to come up in a few seconds. But first things first, um, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding Nicki's new boyfriend, who is actually her old boyfriend. It's a guy that she used to date back in the day when she was living in Queens. I think she was a teenager at the time. They didn't necessarily specify her actual age, but his name is Kenneth Petty. They met back in the day, dated, and now they're rekindling their romance, whatever. So the big controversy that's happening about their canoodlation is the fact that he is not only a convicted sex offender, but he's also caught a body, meaning he has a manslaughter charge. So I guess I don't even know if it's necessarily her fans. According to the bar, she could do no wrong in their eyes. But according to like reports, media, all this other stuff, they're bringing this up. Now, my theory on this whole thing. Okay, so maybe before I give my opinion, I just want to give you a little backstory. So apparently, he and the girl that he was with at the time were 16 when they were dating and having consensual sex amongst each other at the time. Now, the girl's mother did not approve of their relationship, and she filed the charges, which ended up with him being convicted as a sex offender. So that doesn't have anything to do with Nikki. That doesn't have to do anything. So that's how he got that sex offender charge. I didn't necessarily even know that in New York, 16 was basically is it considered statutory? Right? I guess the you're considered an adult in New York as at 17. I don't know. I was fucking long before that age. So I don't necessarily know like the whole rules and all that other stuff. So if the mother is the one that's coming out and filing it, you can't get mad at the parent for being upset that her daughter is popping her pussy on some boy that she didn't want her popping her pussy on. So she's happy. This happened around April 1995. Niggas apparently happy with this guy. My opinion on this whole thing, he is still a registered sex offender. He went to jail and did his time. Is there ever a moment that, okay, so someone who comes out of jail is not allowed to make a new life for themselves, be happy, be in a relationship? Of course, why not? I like the fact that I don't even remember what state it was, but there's a maybe I think it might be Florida or something. I don't know. I could be wrong. If I can't think about it on the top of my head, but if you know this, put it in the comments. That it was recently allowed that federal, like people who were convicted of a federal crime, or I guess even when is it that you're convicted of a federal crime that you're considered you can't what's the word, vote, or is it a misdemeanor? Because I always think misdemeanors aren't too bad. Federal crime is basically to the extreme. So I know people who serve time in prison cannot vote in a lot of states, but I think it might be Georgia or Florida. I'm not necessarily sure that has recently allowed people with who've been convicted of a federal crime to vote. So I do believe that if you go to jail and you do the crime, you do the time, and you come out, that you should be allowed to have a second chance and to get your life together. So if she's happy with this dude, that's their business. I don't care. I'm not fucking him. So I don't understand why people want to be mad. Like, there's many other reasons why you could be mad at Nicki Minaj, which is that passive aggressive shit that she does, where she likes to start shit with other people and place blame, and then when they blow up, then she wants to look and be like, oh my God, why is she acting crazy? You're doing this bullshit amongst upper echelon and all that other mess. Speaking of upper echelon, this is exactly the story I wanted to get to. So Cardi B premiered on CBS this morning on Sunday, and she talked about a lot of things, including the infamous incident that happened at the Fashion Week party in New York, where she and Nikki wound up having a little confrontation, and there was a fight that ensued. Nobody touched each other, but there was like a whole thing that happened that was saying like, but security, y'all remember the whole story. I'm not gonna recap that shit because I don't care enough to do it. But I wanted to give a follow up. So she was asked, Cardi was asked, does she believe that that incident was bad for business? And she says, yes, it was. That not all publicity is good publicity, even though they try to say it is. I'm sure Tekashi 6ix9ine is thinking that this is good for business, this whole situation that's going on with him, not copping that plea deal and that whole sort of situation that just came out recently. I think it was like yesterday when that story came out. But anyway, all publicity is not good publicity. Playing gangsta is not good for publicity. Maybe it's good for publicity to sell records, but when y'all are actually out here trying to live that lifestyle that y'all are fake betraying, it's not good for business. And two females out here fight. Look, there's room for everybody. I feel like Nicki and Cardi and so many other girls should be able to coexist. Back in my days when I was younger, and I ain't that damn old, like I'm talking about like the late 90s, early 2000s, when we had a long list of girls, Missy, Eve, who else? There was so many other female rappers. Angie Martinez. We had Left Eye. We had so many girls out here who were basically putting out music and making shit happen on their own. Yeah, there were beefs. Like we had little Kim Foxy Brown, that sort of thing was going on. But when it came down to it, I liked all of them. I was a fan of Missy. I'm a fan of Eve. Well, still am. I'm a fan of Eve. Like any girl that came out with some music, I was definitely out here supporting and giving them the business. And I don't understand why now in this era, people have quickly forgotten that once upon a time, this was a thing. That there was so many girls out here doing their thing and making music. And it wasn't an issue. It's friendly competition. That's what hip hop should be. Beefs, all the other shit. It's friendly competition. But when y'all try to take it to a whole nother level, that's when it gets ridiculous. So she also said that she doesn't regret anything that she has done. And to me, I feel like don't regret anything. Look, Madonna said it best. Absolutely no regrets. And I kind of live by that motto. I feel like everything that happens in life is for a reason. And we kind of should just look at it as a life lesson. Don't regret it. If you do something, it's what's done is done. You can't change it. There's nothing you can do about it. So just learn from the situation and try to do better. I feel like Cardi is still relatively a new artist. She's been nominated for 5 Grammys. And right now she needs to kind of get in and learn as as she continues. She has to learn and she's going to make mistakes and she's going to fall down and she has to get back up. Just try not to make the same mistakes again. That's the only thing. Like, don't every time somebody come out and says some shit, let them talk. Pay it. Don't pay these bitches no mind. Just make your money. Go out here and do what you're doing because there's always going to be somebody that's want to hate on your success. Whenever you come up and you're successful, there's always going to be somebody out here that wants to tear you down. So don't feed the trolls. Please don't. Speaking of trolls and all that good stuff, let's talk about D.L. Hughley. So apparently, this unfunny motherfucker felt the need to just piggyback off of this whole Kevin Hart situation where I've already stated my opinion on that. Like, I feel like Kevin Hart, like I said before, a lot of people don't follow Kevin Hart. A lot of people weren't even aware of these homophobic tweets that were problematic where you're sitting there talking about you will assault your own child if he ever came out of the closet. That is problematic, especially when in the previous video I said there was a story that came out about a 10-year-old boy who was beaten to death by his stepfather for coming out of the closet at 10 years old. So when you say things like that and people find this funny, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, racism, all those type of jokes aren't funny. I feel like in a way, if you're going to do those type of unfiltered type jokes, it has to be spun in a way where it's like, it's funny, but I get it. There was like a joke I found deeply offensive yesterday. I'll say this for an example. There was we did like, okay, because I'm working with the Big Apple Circus. So we did an event because yesterday was, I believe, the last day of Hanukkah. So we had like a private show where Jewish people were here. So it's like, the upper echelon of the Hasidic Judaism situation. One of the things I found offensive because there's this thing where none of our show is deeply fun. Like, we have a lot of women in the show. which I absolutely love. But for this particular event, we couldn't have any of the women perform. And if you were to be on the premises, women had to be covered up. Like your arms could not be exposed, that sort of thing, which is fine. I had a problem with the fact that, okay, we're doing a show that was done by the New York Times that was deeply brought talk about women empowerment, this, that, and the other, and we had to cut out a lot of the show because we're appeasing a specific group. But there was one thing, okay, that's one thing. That has nothing to do with me. That ain't got nothing to do, like, I'm not the one spending the money. I'm not the one making the decisions. I'm just saying, me personally, I was offended by it. I understand people have their own vices with their religions and this, that, and the other, but to me, misogyny should not be allowed in anything or any kind of discrimination towards women. But one of the guys who was in the show made a joke and said, "Oh well, they didn't have we didn't something or another about we didn't have horses in the act or whatever. I mean they have horses in the back, but we didn't include them because we found out they're all female." People laughed at this. I found it equally offensive. So when you make jokes at the expense of other people, especially when you ain't funny, to me, I take issue with that. And to me, for people out here making jokes about abusing gay people or trans women, especially when we have a high murder rate of trans women of color in the United States that are not going reported on social media or even in the media. I remember there was another thing. I'm gonna get to the point about DL in a minute, but I'm just like all this stuff that's coming in. I'm gonna just put it out there. There's a story. I even brought this up last week. Billboard did like a little special with some of the girls from Drag Race, like Gia Gunn, Bob the Drag Queen, Aja. If you definitely can check it out, it's on YouTube. They did something where they talked about this exact subject and why trans stories aren't being brought up in the media. And I feel like because we don't have enough trans people working in news, we don't have them working behind the scenes. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to, they don't know the proper pronouns. So I feel like, so they don't offend. And I know that's like a lot of our demographics, LGBTQ community, real sensitive right now. So you misgender someone, you say something, that's not excusing it, but I'm just saying like looking at it from the other side, you misgender someone, you say something, you say the wrong thing, even if you don't mean it or to mean to offend or to say the wrong thing, people are going to get turned, people are going to probably come in and be like, accuse them of transphobia or whatever the case is. And my thing is you can't really do that because people aren't, hold on now, like I'm trying to hold this phone up while I'm talking to y'all and you know, the arm is getting restless. So but keep going. Um, so you don't want to say the wrong thing as to not offend. And I think that it all boils down to this is why when you see shows like Transparent, so many other things, it's always, or Pose, it's always apparent to have people who are transgender or LGBT, if you're going to do that type of show, behind the scenes. So that way everything basically, no one is offended and things come out and it's appropriate or it's done, the story is told properly. So maybe that's what we need. We need more trans people in media so that way, you know, those stories will get told. Or we just need a show on social media or the internet where that's hosted by some LGBT people that'll get these stories out there. See a couple of them, but it'll happen. But anyway, so Dio wound up getting in. The reason why I'm saying this is because he wound up getting into a recent Twitter beef with Pose star India Moore, where she basically responded to him defending Kevin Hart. Here's what she said. She said, white people standing up for racism in comedy at Real Deal Hughley, but you can't see that because gay jokes are so popular and normalized. You can't balance or evaluate the ethics of an issue you aren't impacted by or really care, brother. Just stop. You biased. And then she basically, I mean, he was like, oh, it's just jokes, da da da. He probably tried to just brush it off because, you know, apparently DL got time to respond to every damn body that don't agree with him. So basically she went on to say, your jokes divide and that's where you fail as a comedian. Now, that fail as a comedian part set him off to the point where he called her a pussy and decided to list his credentials and even plug his upcoming Netflix special. Which you have a right to do, and you do, and DL has a successful radio show. He's very opinionated, and I'm usually with him when it comes to stories or topics when it comes to racism. When he's talking, when he's gone on Real Time with Bill Maher recently, he was on The View and he was talking about Trump and racism in America and all this other stuff. And he was promoting the book, and I was definitely with him throughout this whole thing. However, what I don't get from people of color, black people, Latin people who are marginalized in this country, if you are not white and male, your opinion doesn't matter to a lot of people. So for you to not understand where the LGBT community is coming from versus you wanting people to feel sorry for what's going on to black people, but you can't offer the same energy to people who aren't different than you because maybe you don't agree with being gay or trans or lesbian or whatever the case is. I don't understand that. You can't just expect someone to respect you and what you are going through and not offer the same type of energy to other communities that are considered a minority or marginalized. That's where I come from with that. So I don't understand how like Deal can offer energy for one but not the other. When the one thing that people of color, gay people, women, we all have in common, we all experience some form of bigotry. White men cannot ever understand that because you are considered, from the time you come out of your mother's vagina, privileged. So I never understand that whole thing where people of color can be homophobic, but it has to do with religion and misogyny and all that other crap. We could be here all day discussing all that, and I don't really feel like doing that. But they were going back and forth and that whole thing. But I know they were. I didn't get anything transphobic from him calling her a pussy. He probably was just saying like, I mean, well, thank you, because I'm like, if she has a pussy, why not be called a pussy? I love pussy. Well, not me, but you know, just saying, it is what it is. Okay, let's move on. So, what else? Oh, just heard about Kathie Gifford is leaving the Today Show. She's gonna be with them until April, which is the upcoming. I think that's when the anniversary of the show. And yeah, she's been with the show for 10 years. It's time to move on. This and then I think also there's so many things happening over at NBC right now with Matt Lauer being pushed out, and then them getting rid of Megyn Kelly and Hoda Kotb doing like so much over there at NBC now. Like she's literally doing like 8 hours. I'm exaggerating, but I'm just saying like they got her literally doing 8 hours of airtime over there. And it's just a lot, I guess. And Kathie, who knows, maybe she feels like she's being left out in the cold a bit. So maybe she's like, you know what, it's time for me to move on. And if that's what you want to do, by all means, move on. I don't know if she's going to continue to come back to TV or she's just going to retire, kind of like Regis, but we'll see. Um, have you guys been watching The Real Housewives of Atlanta? I only saw last season, have not watched this season at all. I don't know, I'm just not interested. Um, I kind of miss Kenya. I've been hearing things here and there about the show that it's not as good, that this season's kind of dry. They've had little moments, and I've caught it on like Wendy Williams and a whole bunch of other shows, but it's still not enough to get me to cinema. I'm kind of getting bored with the whole Real Housewives franchise, quite frankly. But the recent additions to the show, Ronnie, DeVoe, and his wife Shamari, who you know or may not know, was part of this girl group back in the day, who I called the Bootleg TLC. They were called Black. She was a member of the group, one of the singers. Um, she's on the new season of The Real Housewives of Atlanta, but now the word is that she and her husband owe over $300,000 in back taxes. Now the total for was back in 2013. Total tax $366,786.38. So maybe this is why, they're putting out music together. They came on reality TV because clearly those what do you call it? Those new edition checks, or what do they call them now? RBRM, because two of the members aren't even there anymore. I guess those checks aren't rolling in as they used to. So now they gotta go on reality, and reality TV still pays crap. But I guess this is the way for them to promote themselves and give us a little insight into their life. And they also have an open relationship. And I'm sure Ronnie loves the boys because, honey, the queeniness comes out of her when, she's on TV. I know Wendy Williams don't say it, but honey, how you doing? How you doing? Anyway, okay. So, another big story that had came out, which is part of the, some little LGBT news. Jasmine Masters and Shangela are apparently beefing. Now, last Friday, they premiered that Christmas episode, which I call the Drag Race infomercial for RuPaul's new Christmas album. Yeah, a 1 hour shameless plug. That's basically what that whole shit was. That shit show. So Jasmine Masters went on, in what was it? Instagram Live, Snapchat. She went live on social media and basically talked about why she doesn't appear in the rest of the show and how Shangela was holding up production and they wanted to go eat and this, that, and the other, and there was drama with all that. So basically, she just placed blame on Shangela feeling her oats, being a diva, and basically trying to act like she was the star. So, but then, I don't know, I got a little. So then Shangela went and told her side of the story, saying that that's not what happened, that everybody got compensated for the lateness and everything except Jasmine, I guess because she left or whatever. So she was saying that Jasmine was being difficult. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's been going on with that. If you want, you could definitely check it out on social media. It's all over the place. Watch both their videos on YouTube to get both sides of the story. But yeah, we got Drag Race girls beefing, and I have to say this beef was far more interesting than that Christmas episode, and I'm kind of looking forward to All Stars 4. Simply because, the whole drama that's been coming out recently with Gia going at it and throwing shade at RuPaul and a whole bunch of stuff that's been going on with that. So I'm definitely gonna watch to see how all of this plays out and how it's all edited. In other LGBT news, someone who I happen to know, porn star Max Connor, who I'll always know as Cliff, was recently kicked out of the Leatherman, New York City over the weekend and was accusing the people in the store of being racist. Now, the whole story with that is, because I have it here, he and his friend Maxfield Haynes, a designer, wound up going to the store, and basically Max is looking for an outfit to wear, like a top, basically. He went to the Leatherman to basically see if they could custom make a top for him based off some sketches that he had for the Gay Vienna Awards, which is coming up in January. They said that they had to wait for 10 minutes until the seamstress or whatever came down and looked at the sketches. Basically said they didn't have enough time to make it before the Gay Vienna Awards. I don't know, maybe they had way too many people that wanted some stuff coming in, or the fact is that, does it really take that long to make a shirt? It's December. The Gay Vienna Awards is in January. So how much time do you need to make an outfit? So basically he was told something or another that it was going to come out to $1,500. He and Max, Max and Maxfield, proceeded to shop around in the store and look around at other stuff to see, he was like, oh, he likes some of the other designs and everything in here. Let's just look around and see. So they basically were just looking around and seeing if they can get some more outfits or whatever. If he would just buy like a harness, whatever the case is, whatever, the stuff that they sell in the leather store. Then they said that they were approached by the owner because they were on their phone, and they said they were calling a car so they could leave. So then they said they were proceeded to be harassed and said that we don't want you using your phone in here because, I guess, in layman terms, the reason why I guess they felt that people come in, they snap photos of the leather designs, and people don't pay. So something or another came around where they said that I don't want to have to keep watching you or whatever, this case and the other. So now when I heard this whole thing about watching you on your phone or whatever the case is, to me, it comes across as like, this is that typical black people in the store trying to shop, and all of a sudden you've got employees following around. Do you need any help? Or trying to see if you're trying to steal anything. Where it's like, black folks are not the only people who steal. White people steal fucking too. And I'm sick and tired, if this is a case of racism, which Max is accusing this a being because, this is what he's posted on Twitter. This discrimination thing has got to stop. And this is something that does go happen in our community. So on one hand, where we sit and talk about we want equality from people such as white folks or whatever the case is, or we don't want to be discriminated against in so many other ways. In our community, it happens a lot. And it's something that needs to be addressed and something that we should all start talking about because I'm getting sick and tired of this shit happening. And so I will keep you guys abreast of all this story as it comes along. The owner denied the whole thing and said it wasn't racism, that they were being rude. They also said there was 3 other people in there when word on the street was it was just him and Max and Max. They were the only 2 that were there at the time. So it's a whole lot that's going on. I'll keep you guys abreast of what's happening. I don't think we should be so quick to protest because we're so quick to grab our glittered pitchforks and our tiki torches whenever an ounce of discrimination happens. I want to get the entire story. Max sounds very credible in what he's saying. I'm kind of feeling a little iffy about the leather store and their story. It's an old white guy that works there, so there could be like ageism or an age gap thing that's happening because people in their phones. A lot of these older people don't get the whole cell phone thing. So yeah, I'll keep you guys abreast of that. 2 more things I want to get to before I sign off. Power's getting a prequel. That's one of the things that's happening with Power. It's getting actually 3 spinoffs. And 50 Cent signed a $150 million deal with Stars to produce 3 shows that are apparently going to happen simultaneously. Now, here's the thing. Is there enough story to be told about Power? I don't know. Power's one of the most popular shows on Stars right now. I really wish that, but there's a $150 million deal, that 50 wasn't a one-trick pony and could come up with some other ideas besides doing something with Power. Because here's the thing. Prequels don't necessarily do too well. I can't think of one we'll think about movies. The Fantastic Beasts prequels are not really good. I wasn't fond of the Star Wars prequels. Every time they come out with prequels, I'm kind of not that excited for them because prequels aren't really interesting to me. I'm interested to see now the Game of Thrones prequels, if they'll be as good as the current series. But prequels, they're not my cup of tea, really. I mean, if I see a good one, then I'll support it. But yeah. So that's what's happening. And New York Undercover is being revived, and it's going to be on ABC. I've been saying that show should have been revived ages ago, but this is the perfect time to revive the show. Now, is the original cast coming back? I was thinking I'd like to see Malik Yoba as the police captain. And I remember Lauren Velez's character was pregnant with Eddie Torres's baby. So I would love to hear if, yeah, I think she was pregnant, right? Remind me, because I could have sworn that she was on her character on the show. I would love to see like maybe the child of JC and Lauren Velez's character, their child become a cop and kind of spin it off from that. And then he gets a new partner. I mean, he or she gets a new, because I don't remember what the child's gender is or was. So yeah, I kind of would like to see a spinoff. I mean, not a spinoff, but like a reboot of New Undercover. That was my show back in the day. That was like, I loved that show back in the night. I even appeared on the show. Way back in the day. It was the episode when Michael Imperioli was on. And I got to meet Lauren Velez, and I think that was the actual episode that they killed Michael DiLorenzo off of. So, yeah, we know he can't come back. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how they'll do New York Undercover. I'm not sure about ABC, though. I felt like Fox was a little more groundbreaking back in the day, and Fox is still kind of groundbreaking with their shows. Love 911, love those type of shows. But if we're going to do New York Undercover, like, I need them to still be edgy. I need them to still have, like, that flavor that they had back in the day when I used to watch the show, where it was a good cop show, but it also felt urban. And I need them to have that energy and even bring Natalie's back, where we can introduce some musical acts and stuff, because that was my thing too back in those days. This was before, like, when you see like Glee and all of that, where they had like the iTunes and all the stuff, where people would get their music from that. New Undercover was doing it long before these other shows were doing it. So looking forward to this. Also, I want to thank you all for watching all the way through or even part of the show. But anyway, just want to thank you all for tuning in to another episode of me spilling the latest tea on everything that has to do with celebrity news, gossip, and LGBT news. Love you all for watching. Till then, ciao, darlings.